This is going to be a quick video about the software I use for UI, UX, and product design. If you're new to the channel, my name is Raymond Stone and I'm a UX designer based in San Francisco. There's going to be a couple of subtle differences in this video from my previous videos. One, I'm actually using a real lighting setup, and I got a new camera. You probably can't tell the difference, and you probably don't really care that much. This is also going to be the first video in a long time that's not scripted because, looking back at my previous videos, there's so many jump cuts that it's so jarring, and it's also a pain to edit. So I'm just going to try to, talk into the camera from memory, and it should be a subject that I could, speak organically about because, every designer knows what softwares they use, and it's not something that I should, be reading off of a script word for word. Anyway, as far as UI UX product design tools go, I like to pride myself on being software agnostic, which means that I could use pretty much all of the industry standard tools. I mean, even the ones that I haven't tried yet, I'm pretty confident that I could learn them fairly quickly, because if you've tried one, then you've pretty much tried all of the similar ones based on how they function. They all function fairly similarly. So the software that I use depends on the phase that I'm in at that particular point in the project. So for things like information architecture, I like to use InDesign. It's very good with text and creating simple boxes and creating documents. So when I'm designing sitemaps and user flows, I like to use InDesign. It's kind of a habit that I picked up from my first full-time design job when I was working at an agency. And when I'm in the interaction design phase, which is wireframes and creating visual mock-ups, that also varies too. So if I'm creating annotated wireframes, I like to use InDesign because that's again something I picked up from my first full-time job. I guess I would put those wireframes in the mid-fidelity range. If I'm doing high-fidelity wireframes, I'm more likely to use a visual design program like Sketch or Adobe XD. Right now I'm currently using Adobe XD for most of my projects because it has the prototyping tool built into it. So I'll get to the prototyping stuff later. For low fidelity wireframes, obviously I'll just use a pencil and paper or pen and paper. And speaking of visual designs, for visual mockups, I used to only use Illustrator for that because Adobe XD hadn't been out yet, and I always felt more comfortable with Adobe Illustrator than I did with Photoshop, which the Photoshop habit is something I didn't pick up at the first full-time job that I had. At that company, they like to use Photoshop, and I was never a fan of that for web design. I did learn how to use Photoshop there though for web design, but I just never got completely comfortable with it. So I was glad when Sketch came out, and that's what I transitioned to from Illustrator and Photoshop. And I used that for a couple of years, but then when Adobe XD came out and I tried that, I enjoyed the fact that it had the prototyping tool built in. Speaking of prototyping, back when I used Sketch, I coupled that with InVision. InVision was the prototyping tool that I used when I used Sketch. So the workflow would be you'd create your visual mockups in Sketch, and then you would move over to InVision, the online platform tool that you use for prototyping. And now, since Adobe XD came out, Adobe XD has the prototyping tool built into it. It makes the workflow a lot easier. So I pretty much do everything in that. And so that's just a quick run through of the software that I use for UI and UX design. It's one of those obligatory designers on YouTube videos. Every designer on YouTube has a video where they talk about the software that they use. And I feel like this would be a fairly easy video to get me started on, getting used to creating YouTube videos without a script. And hopefully if I could master the art of doing this, then I could crank out videos a lot quicker with, less painstaking editing process, especially this week because my weekly deadline for uploading videos is usually Saturday night. I like to upload one a week, and this topic is an easy way to get me used to just speaking into the camera without reading off of a script and then looking at the camera and then reading off of the script again, and then having to do all of those million jump cuts that don't look very good on video, and they're frankly exhausting to film and edit. But there's one thing I wanted to do before ending this, which is give a shout out to a more popular YouTuber in the design space. Her name is Charlie Prangley. You probably are familiar with her if you browse YouTube for UX videos and UI design videos and product design videos. I'd like to thank her for her very generous Dribbble invites there. Sorry, I gotta still get used to being able to talk organically into the camera. But yeah, I am a proud beneficiary of one of her Dribbble invites, so I will over the next few months do the best I can to take advantage of that invite. And go check out her YouTube. I guess I mean, there's only 41 subscribers to my YouTube right now, so I guess this shout out doesn't really matter in that case. But yeah, just want to thank her for the invite, and yeah, go check her out, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video.